When everything in your life starts falling apart, there is a moment in life when the ground beneath you no longer feels solid, not because you made a mistake, not because you failed, but because the version of life you were standing on has expired. This is usually the first sign the universe is preparing you for something big. It doesn't begin with clarity. It doesn't begin with blessings. It begins with collapse. You wake up one day and realize that things no longer feel right. The motivation that once pushed you forward disappears. The future you planned for feels distant or empty. Relationships feel strained. Conversations feel forced. Even your own thoughts feel unfamiliar. And the most confusing part is this: from the outside, nothing looks wrong, but inside, everything feels misaligned. This internal discomfort is not random. It is your soul rejecting a life that can no longer contain its growth. When the universe is preparing you for something big, it cannot allow you to stay comfortable in a space that is too small for who you are becoming. So it begins removing stability not to destroy you, but to wake you up. This is why this phase feels chaotic. Plans stop working, doors close unexpectedly, people drift away without explanation, things you relied on suddenly fail you, and you ask yourself, why now? Because if things didn't fall apart, you would never leave. The universe understands something the mind resists. Humans cling to familiarity, even when it suffocates them, so the universe intervenes. It dismantles illusions, it breaks routines, it exposes cracks you were ignoring. Not to punish you, but to force honesty. This is the stage where your identity begins to dissolve. You realize that much of who you thought you were was built around survival, approval, or expectation. You were being someone who made sense in an old chapter, not the one you're entering now, and this realization hurts, because it means letting go of comfort. It means releasing people who knew you in a way that no longer fits. It means grieving a future you once imagined. This grief is necessary, because you cannot build a new life while still emotionally living in an old one. During this phase, exhaustion becomes constant. Not physical exhaustion, soul exhaustion. You feel tired of pretending, tired of explaining yourself, tired of trying to make things work that clearly aren't meant to. This is a sign of awakening. Your soul is withdrawing energy from what no longer serves you. The universe often starts preparation by removing emotional attachments before physical changes occur. You begin emotionally detaching from people, places, and goals long before they actually leave your life. This is not numbness, this is energetic separation. You may notice yourself becoming quieter, less reactive, less invested in drama or validation. You stop arguing to be understood. You stop forcing connections. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself. Another painful aspect of this phase is loneliness. Even when surrounded by people, you feel alone. Not because no one is there, but because no one sees the version of you that is emerging. This loneliness is not emptiness. It is transition. You are between identities. The old version of you is dissolving, and the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. This in-between space feels unstable because it is meant to be temporary. But it is also sacred. This is where clarity begins forming beneath confusion, where truth rises under discomfort, where your soul gains authority over your life. You may try to fix things, to control outcomes, to return to what felt safe, but the universe will gently or forcefully block you, not because you're wrong, but because going back would delay what's coming. Every door that closes during this phase closes with purpose. Every ending carries instruction, and although it feels like loss, what is truly happening is liberation. The universe is freeing you from obligations that were never aligned with your highest path. It is removing distractions that kept you from listening to yourself. It is dismantling structures built on fear instead of truth. This phase teaches surrender, not the kind that gives up, but the kind that trusts. Trust that what's leaving is making room. Trust that confusion is temporary. Trust that destruction can be divine, because here is the truth most people don't realize until later. The universe never destroys without intention to rebuild. What you are experiencing is not the end. It is the clearing before arrival. If your life feels like it's falling apart right now, pause before labeling it as failure. Ask yourself instead, what if this is preparation? Because nothing big enters a life that has no space for it. And space is created by release. Why the universe pulls you into isolation and silence after everything begins to fall apart. Something strange happens. The noise fades, not because life becomes easier, but because you are being pulled inward. This is the phase most people misunderstand, resist, and mislabel. They call it loneliness. They call it disconnection. Some even call it losing interest in life. But in truth, this stage is none of those things. This is intentional isolation. When the universe is preparing you for something big, it removes external interference, so your inner voice can finally be heard. It creates distance between you and the world, so you can meet yourself without distraction. This is not abandonment, this is alignment. You may notice that social interactions suddenly feel exhausting. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. You lose patience for surface-level connections, meaningless debates, and forced relationships. You crave quiet not because you are broken, but because your awareness has deepened. Your soul has moved beyond noise. The universe isolates you when the answers you seek cannot be found outside of you anymore. This is when your inner world becomes louder than the outer one. You begin thinking more deeply, questioning more honestly, reflecting on your past with clarity instead of judgment. You replay memories not to suffer, but to understand. This is integration. Your mind, body, and soul are finally syncing. Old emotional wounds resurface during this phase, and this often confuses people. They think they are regressing. They think they are backsliding. But healing is not linear. What resurfaces does so because you are now strong enough to face it. The universe does not bring unresolved pain back into your awareness to punish you. It does so to complete cycles. You may suddenly remember moments you buried long ago. Feel emotions you thought you had moved past. Grieve things you never allowed yourself to grieve. This is not weakness. This is release. Isolation gives these emotions space to exist without interruption. In this phase, you also begin losing interest in proving yourself. Validation matters less. External approval no longer satisfies you the way it once did. You stop explaining your choices. You stop seeking permission. You stop asking for reassurance, not because you don't care, but because you trust yourself more. This is one of the most powerful shifts. The universe is training you to become self-led, because what's coming next in your life cannot be sustained by dependence. It will require inner authority, emotional regulation, and self-trust. Another sign you're in this phase is heightened intuition. You begin sensing things before they happen, feeling energy in rooms. Knowing when something is off without evidence. You may notice repeating numbers, vivid dreams, sudden realizations, or strong gut instincts. This is not imagination. This is attunement. Your awareness is sharpening because the universe has reduced external noise. Stillness enhances perception. During this time, productivity often slows down, and this makes people anxious. You may feel like you're falling behind, like others are moving forward while you're stuck in pause. But this pause is strategic. The universe slows you down to prevent you from building your future on an unstable inner foundation. If you rushed forward now, you would recreate old patterns in new places. So instead, the universe says, stop, sit, feel, listen. This is where emotional maturity forms. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, to feel emotions without numbing, to observe your thoughts without becoming them. This is how emotional intelligence develops. You start recognizing your triggers, understanding your reactions, seeing where you abandon yourself to keep peace. And once you see these patterns, you can no longer unsee them. This is liberation. Isolation also teaches you discernment. You realize that not everyone deserves access to you. Not every connection is meant to continue. Some people were only meant to walk with you through a chapter, not the whole book. And that's okay. This realization doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You begin choosing quality over quantity, depth over attention, peace over attachment, and that choice changes everything. Because Whatever the universe is preparing you for will require emotional boundaries. It will require you to protect your energy. It will require you to know when to say no without guilt. Isolation builds this strength quietly. By the time you re-enter the world more fully, you are different. Calmer, more grounded, less reactive, more aware. You no longer chase. You attract, you no longer force. You align. This phase ends not with fireworks, but with readiness. You feel a subtle shift, a quiet confidence, an inner steadiness. You may not know what's coming yet, but you know you're ready for more. And that is the signal the universe has been waiting for. Because silence was never meant to isolate you forever. It was meant to prepare you. The tests that appear right before the break. There is a stage that comes after the silence, after the collapse, after the isolation, after the internal restructuring. And this stage is the most misunderstood of all, because just when you think you've learned the lessons, just when you feel calmer, clearer, more grounded, life tests you, not gently, precisely. This is the final sign the universe is preparing you for something big. Everything you healed gets tested one last time. This phase often feels unfair. You might think, why is this happening again? Didn't I already grow past this? Why does it feel like life is poking at my wounds? But the truth is simple and profound. The universe does not test what you haven't learned. It tests what you claim you've mastered. This is not regression. This is verification. Before something big enters your life, the universe must be sure you won't sabotage it, abandon yourself, or fall back into old patterns once pressure appears. So it recreates familiar situations, but with a twist. Old dynamics return in new forms, old triggers appear through different people, old fears surface in subtler ways. The question is no longer, do you understand the lesson? The question is, will you live it? This is where emotional maturity is revealed. You may be tested through people who challenge your boundaries. Someone may ask for more than you're willing to give. Someone may disrespect your limits. Someone may pull you toward old habits, overgiving, people, pleasing, self-doubt. And the universe watches quietly. Will you explain yourself endlessly, or stand firm in silence? Will you chase closure, or choose peace? Will you shrink to keep connection, or honor your truth? These moments feel intense because they are decisive. Every test is an invitation to respond differently than you once did. Not louder, not harsher, but clearer. You may also be tested through delays. Things take longer than expected. Progress slows. Answers don't come. The waiting feels heavy. This tests your trust. Can you stay grounded without reassurance? Can you remain aligned without visible results? Can you hold faith without control? Patience is not passive here, it is powerful, because impatience is rooted in fear, and the universe cannot place something big in fearful hands. Another common test appears through rejection. An opportunity falls through. A person doesn't choose you. A door closes unexpectedly, and this tests your self-worth. Do you internalize rejection as failure, or recognize it as redirection? Because what's meant for you does not require convincing, shrinking, or proving. If you chase what rejects you, you will abandon yourself, and the universe cannot reward self-abandonment. So it asks you to walk away, not angrily, not dramatically, but with dignity. This is where true power is formed. Power is not control over others. Power is control over your responses. During this phase, emotional triggers often feel sharper not because you're weaker, but because you're more aware. You notice subtle shifts in energy. You sense manipulation faster. You feel when something isn't aligned, and instead of reacting impulsively, you pause. That pause is evolution. You no longer need to win arguments. You no longer need to be understood by everyone. You no longer need to rescue people from their own patterns. You choose peace over performance. This is when the universe knows you're ready, because whatever is coming next in your life will require discernment. It will require emotional steadiness. It will require you to protect what you've built internally. Big blessings come with responsibility, and not everyone can hold them without losing themselves. The universe also tests your relationship with control. You may feel tempted to force outcomes, to rush timing, to push doors open that aren't opening yet, but forcing is a sign of mistrust. So the universe blocks effort that comes from fear and only supports movement that comes from alignment. This teaches you a crucial lesson. What is truly meant for you arrives with cooperation, not resistance. When you stop forcing, something shifts. You feel lighter, clearer, less desperate, and that emotional neutrality is powerful. Because desperation repels what alignment attracts, the final test often appears quietly, a moment where you must choose yourself without applause, a decision that no one sees but you, a boundary that costs you connection but saves your integrity. And when you choose correctly, something releases. The tension lifts, the pressure fades, the repetition ends. That's how you know the test is complete. Soon after, movement begins, not chaos, not confusion, but flow. Opportunities align naturally, people meet you at your level, clarity replaces doubt, and you realize something important. The breakdown protected you, the isolation refined you, the tests matured you. You are never being delayed. You are being prepared. Pay attention to where you are if your life has felt uncomfortable lately, if silence has replaced noise, if familiar challenges have returned asking for new responses. You are standing at the edge of something meaningful. The universe does not prepare everyone like this. It only prepares those who are meant to handle more purpose, more responsibility, more alignment. And the greatest sign something big is coming. You are no longer the person who would have mishandled it. You are steadier, clearer, stronger, not because life got easier, but because you got deeper.